Good morning, Kumar. Again, privileged to meet you and speak to you, and thank you so much for joining us. So, I just wanted to start things off by asking you about the first Test match between England and Sri Lanka that just ended with an England victory. And what are your thoughts about the current Sri Lankan squad? And do you think if they're equipped to make a comeback in the series?
Thanks, Ashwin, for having me, and great to meet you as well. Yeah, I thought it was a very good showing by the Sri Lankans. I mean, lots of questions before. Will they be up to it? Will they be more like the West Indies in terms of the way they play? I mean, the West Indies is a very good side, but they had a tough time in England. So I thought the showing was extremely good. A good toss to win, early struggles, and then a recovery. Between Milan Ratnayaka and Dhananjay De Silva, the captain, bowling really well, stayed in the game. Unfortunately, a little bit of a lazy, disorganized passage of play allowed England to get away. But again, the batting in the second innings was a great testament of character. Kamidu Mendes was absolutely outstanding with that 100. Dinesh Chandimal with his courage, and again, he's batting beautifully. Angelo Matthews scoring a half century and getting a big enough lead. I mean, 260, 70 would have been even better, but just over 200, 205, I think, was challenging. And they managed to really stretch England. And England could not play their attacking, usual form of dominating cricket at any time during the tournament,
Yeah.
during that match. So it goes to show that the Sri Lankan team has character and has ability. They just need to get a few things in order, a few of their tactics, a few um, of their performances, but it means that they can come back in this series, and Lords is going to be a very important test for them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Comindo Mendes, who's had an incredible start to his test career. So are there any other standout players for you from both Sri Lanka and England who you think are going to set the tone for the series to come?
Well, yeah, I think Dimut Kanaratne at the top. We might see Pathum Nisanka. I still think that Kusal Mendes is a good enough player. He has a small technical deficiency that he can easily correct in terms of alignment. But come to Mendes, Dinesh, I think the batting is, they just need to keep playing. I think Dhananjay De Silva showed us how good a batter he is, so that's fine. I think Asita Fernando needs a little bit of support from the fast bowlers, so that's another question for them to ask and see in terms of the side arrangement. So in terms of that, they have Sri Lanka has good enough players to really challenge England, and some of them are really outstanding. And the batters will really have to score more runs. For England, of course, Jamie Smith. I mean, the whole England side, everyone knows how capable they are. Brooke and Smith are extremely outstanding in terms of the younger players. Smith, especially, very new, like Count Mendes, and both of them look as if they belong in the on the stage. Um, yeah, and then England have recalled or called up Josh Hull, not recalled, but called up Josh Hull. So he's an exciting prospect. But overall, both sides have really good players.
Amazing. And like you mentioned, England weren't really able to impose their usual attacking self in the first test. But no discussion about England and test is really complete without a mention about Bazball. What are your thoughts on the sustainability of this uber aggressive approach that they seem to take?
Well, I think it's they're evolving, they're learning as they go, and it was all out attack at any cost at one time. They've changed it around, and they're able to now play situations. So I think it's not a case of the fact that they can't sustain it. They are getting smart at knowing when to sustain it, when to go all out, when not to. Different players have different roles. I love the fact that Joe Root has really become Joe Root again, and not
Yeah.
get carried away with what a Brook might do, or with what a Ben Duckett might do. I think Root, he's such an amazing player. As long as he bats like he does, he can score runs as quickly as anyone when he wants to, and you don't even feel it. And then he's able to really withstand pressure much more than anyone else in that side. So I think Root showed us his versatility, and in that, I think England have learned versatility within this new attacking style of play. So I think they've become smarter. They've understood that they need to change at times to keep winning, and they want to win very badly. And that's one of the things that you've always seen with Brendan McCullum and Stokes. It's about playing great cricket, but also about making sure that they do everything they can to win. So it means that I think England becomes a little bit more dangerous when they have this kind of adaptability, and so it means well for English cricket.
Perfect. Thank you. But just as a continuation to that, do you think this move in cricket was kind of inevitable with the change in players' techniques, with the amount of T20s and franchisee cricket they play? Or do you think this is something that Brendan McCullum and Stokes have kind of pioneered and changed the way that red ball cricket is being played?
No, I think when you look at the canvas of red ball cricket, there's so much more room for innovation and attacking cricket than in the white ball game. In white ball, so many things have been looked at, exploited. The defensive tactics have become better, and you see the same evolution in terms of how people square up against England. You saw Sri Lanka spreading fielders to stop the boundaries and really making it difficult for England to to have that mentality of hitting boundaries constantly, even though they were going 4.5, 5 runs and over with singles. It still was seemed that they would get frustrated at times. So when I think Brendan McCullum and Stokes took over, it was about looking at, okay, a lot of sides play a very traditional way of Test cricket. We are going to try and make sure that we attack as much as possible, always looking to score runs. Are not looking at playing a typical game of Test cricket, and Test cricket allowed them to do that the way it was played. And other sides are now catching up, not just in terms of batting the way England does or playing all out attack, but balancing it out and understanding how to play England, or how to be more attacking and more experimental and more explorative in terms of how they play Test cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Brendan McCullum and Stokes have also gone on record quite a few times saying that they've kind of taken it upon themselves to play in a way that brings back crowds and viewership to Test cricket. And whether they win or lose, as a spectator, as a fan, it makes for an exhilarating watch. But there does seem to be a bit of an admission here that crowds and viewership is dwindling for the more traditional forms of cricket. What do you think seems to be the problem?
I think the problem is multi-pronged. It's not an easy solve, and it's not an easy explanation. Cricket has a huge amount of fans, over 1.5 billion, I think, in the world at the moment. A huge amount of them live in the Asian region,
Yeah.
and the traditional form of Test cricket is loved by quite a lot of fans, but also huge amount of players. If you ask players, the format they prize the most has dropped in terms of um, player popularity, fan popularity around the world, and that's also about changing demographics, consumption habits, age demographics of fans, younger fans who are brought up on white ball cricket and then are expected to graduate to Test cricket is not happening at the frequency that
Yeah.
everyone would like, and that's understandable. The newer fans, Gen Z and beyond, as the younger population grows, to grow the reach of the game, you need different ways of thinking and different ways of penetrating those markets. So Test cricket seems not the ideal way, because Test cricket is never going to be played by any countries beyond the current 12. And even for the current 12, for a lot of them, it's such a huge burden financially to host and play Test cricket that it doesn't become viable. There are lots of other things that are at play, but the trends are pretty clear that the fans will decide how they want to consume cricket, what kind of cricket they want to consume,
Mm.
and that will have to really dictate the the direction of travel of cricket administration and players. Ultimately, this is about entertainment and making sure that you reach more and more people around the globe, especially young boys and girls, to love this sport. And they don't really have to necessarily play the sport to love it anymore, or they don't have to really come to the ground anymore to experience cricket. So there are many other ways using tech, new technologies to give fans a more immersive experience. But of course, you need people at the stadiums, a full stadium. It's great for TV, it's great for the players, it's great for the game. So to keep doing that, they have to really revamp how they look at the game, and how they look at Test cricket, and how they are going to sustain this is going to be a complicated question to answer with complex answers. But you need to involve the fans, big tech, investors, everyone who has the money, and then the leadership, the visionary leadership to understand what needs to be done, and then the strength to do it.
Perfect. And you've been a president of the MCC, and we're also part of the World Cricket Connects conference recently, where I'm sure you touched upon all of this debate between analyzing viewer trends and maintaining the status quo. And there was a proposal made by Ravi Shastri at the same conference, proposing a potential test format that is only played by six or seven major teams. Do you think this might be a potential solution to things going forward, with the others sticking to limited overs cricket?
I think that first of all, you have to admit there's a problem, because the moment you bring solutions like that, it's pretty obvious that there are problems, that there is either perhaps too many countries playing Test cricket, or that the Test cricket that is played by all countries is not really viable. How do you
Hmm.
make it interesting? That itself then brings out problems. The ICC distribution is based, and membership is based on test status. So, do you just take away the test status? Do you play a two-tier system? Who chooses that? Then does that mean the relevance of the World Test Championship is no longer? I mean, not even a debate that it is not relevant. Do you have to revamp the thinking? Is Test cricket anyway dying? So, are you trying to just come up with solutions that just delay it? So the solution itself puts up a lot of questions along with it. But any solution that is put up admits immediately to the problem. There is a problem.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's an ideal solution, but there are solutions to be looked at. There are various proposals coming forward. A league style test championship that's independent. You know, so there are lots of ideas, but the main thing is to make any cricket relevant, any cricket really interesting, and then attract more and more, viewers to the game, and grow the reach of the game beyond your traditional countries. So we'll have to wait and see how those solutions pan out, and who actually
Hmm.
makes the decisions to try and see whether you try and solve a problem, whether you solve it in the frame of Test cricket, or you just look at overall cricket without looking
Yeah.
at it as a format. It's really up to the stakeholders. The ICC also needs to really revamp its thinking in that sense, but also the ICC membership is made up of the 10 boards, and how the ICC looks at those 10 boards, because it doesn't really mean that it's an independent organization. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah,
Yeah.
lots of proposals in play here.
Great. And do you think some of the commercial stakeholders also deserve a bit of a say in this process? Maybe not necessarily a seat at the table, but a bit more of a say in helping with the tech and data bit as well, like you mentioned. Do you think that's a valid point for them?
Well, the financial stakeholders ultimately determine investment into the game, and for investment means they need a return. So they will keep looking at what really drives the game and the fans. Big tech all have a pretty good idea of what the consumption habits and the viewing habits of the general public are. So that combination definitely deserves a seat at the table, not just a cursory what do you think, but actually get them deeply involved in the direction of travel of cricket and the decision making therein, because ultimately the fans and the finances, they will drive the direction of cricket. And it's hard to sustain. TV network rights are plateauing. There are lots of mergers happening with TV networks, and then when you have single player markets, it's going to be quite interesting to see what the demands they put on those home boards and the ICC are going to be. So yeah, definitely they need not just to be heard, but also be given a really integral decision making opportunity to help all stakeholders and the fans ultimately, and the players have a better idea of what needs to be done.
Got And talking a bit about Sri Lankan cricket, the last big victory was the 2014 ICC World T20 Championship, where you happened to be the man of the match against India in the final. And since then, it's not been exactly the same, with Sri Lanka failing to qualify to the last four of any ICC tournament since then. Um, how would you break this down? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's quite cyclical, and the side hasn't played well enough in those big tournaments to qualify. I think they need to have a clear and very aligned vision for what Sri Lankan cricket needs to do in the next 6 years, 5 to 6 years. Put in place a really good analytical data and evidence-driven system from under 19 all the way, or from the national side all the way down to the under 19s. Really align all the coaches, all the all the players and administrators, selectors into understanding what needs to be done. You need to have the best experts working in that system, and then give the players a clear expectations of skill, fitness, and readiness to be able to sustain themselves at the international level. So, a lot of work done to really. You can't always rely on talent and just conveyor belt of talent. It's there, but you need to convert them into world class players. So, you need to underpin that talent with a better first class system and all of the other structures that I've just spoken about.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mahela, a very close colleague of yours, was recently in the news because he resigned 6 months into his 1 year extension, citing differences in decision making with the rest of the management, and that kind of links with what you mentioned in terms of alignment of decision making. Do you think that kind of sums up Sri Lankan cricket's recent lack of stability in governance and administration, and that is kind of the main crux of the issue in the last decade or so?
I think the main crux of the issue is that you had so much talent coming out, and so many good players, that a lot of the structural needs were dismissed or ignored. And now, when there is talent, but it's not in the same quantum as it used to be, and in a like a serious group of players of 15, then the cracks really have contributed to it. So now it's very difficult to play catch up or accelerate things, but they need to really look at it and get things done. Alignment is really key, and the strength of, you can't have churn rates of people and experts coming in and out every year. You need to have a culture and an environment the players can trust, a philosophy of cricket that stays consistent, and a vision that is long term, that is not just changing every time you lose a game, or you change someone, or you win a game, you think they're the best. It's not that. You just get the best, trust them to do their job, and let them do it.
Yeah. And just going back to our discussion about Test cricket versus franchisee cricket, you're one of the few players who have had great success as a Test player and as a franchisee player, and you've now had mentorship roles with Rajasthan Royals, where you've enjoyed quite a bit of success as well. Is it still possible for players to be successful in both?
Yeah, I mean, there are enough examples everywhere where everyone is successful. When you take most of the Indian side, they play every format, and including franchise cricket. You take the Australians, the New Zealanders, South Africans, Sri Lankans, Pakistan, unfortunately only plays the PSL and tournaments away from the IPL. So you have examples of great success and multi-format success. So the list is huge. So it's a pretty obvious statement in support of the adaptability and flexibility of players, and that's what ability is all about and talent is all about. You can play any format you want, and that benefits each format the players that play. So I think franchise cricket has been very good for the overall health of cricket.
Yeah. Okay. And do you think there's a bit of a difference in mentality of the players you mentor now compared to the players you played with as a colleague?
No, I think that the mentalities are the same. The opportunities and the formats have necessitated a change in terms of how they look at run scoring and risk and reward. All players are competitive. All players are driven to win. So I think it's a natural evolution. When the formats change, the rules change, the needs change, players change, and their mindsets change. Cricket has always been a very traditional game with very traditional ways of thinking, but trendsetters always are the standouts and the ones who are different, and you see that more and more in modern cricket.
Yeah. And in terms of coaching and administration, what seems to be next for you individually?
I don't know. I'm just, it's always, I'm enjoying what I do now, and then to really take stock when I have to, and then think about it. I haven't really thought too deeply about it, Ashwin.
No problem. And on a bit of a lighter note, Kumar, is a comeback on the cards. You made quite the splash when you turned out for Shillington CC in the fifth year of the English domestic circuit. So how was that experience like for you?
That is brilliant. It's great fellowship. It's great fun. You go to the pub, you have great barbecues. I think it's all about the community and just, the love of the game. It's nothing to do about playing or wanting to play again.
Yeah.
It's brilliant to have that, quintessential part of the English summer being enjoyed by so many people and being able to be a part of it.
Brilliant. And why did we not see more of Kumar, the bowler, at the international level? Because you did roll your arm for Shillington with quite a bit of success by the looks of it. So how was that experience like?
Yeah, I think you can understand the standard of at what I play. Yeah, wasn't wasn't good enough or anywhere near good enough to bowl at any level above that.
Okay. All right. And just to finish things off, you're a legend of the game, obviously, an incredibly successful player, coach, administrator, and I've heard you're quite proficient with the violin as well, which I used to play a bit of as well. So is there anything that Kumar Sangakkara cannot do?
And I was forced to learn the violin until I was about 16 at school. My father was very insistent. There are lots of things I can't do. I think it's important to know what you can and what you can't. So I'm pretty happy doing what I do know, how to do. Yeah, and it's I've been very fortunate. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, that's pretty much all the questions from my end, Kumar. And again, a massive privilege to speak to you. I hope you had a good time as well. And thank you so much
Thank you.
for taking some time up.
Thank you, Ashwin. It's been brilliant. You were excellent and great questions. And thank you. It's been a pleasure.